And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange!
45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
It's very, very, very early because the sun hasn't even risen yet on the Space Coast. We have an Atlas V, the largest configuration there is, 551, or the largest configuration there ever will be, should I say, and it stood proud on Space Launch Complex 41 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We're 53 minutes and counting until launch, and fingers crossed we should have a very pretty sunrise launch for you coming up. Alex is the person who's going to be alongside me today. How you doing, Alex? It's a nice time in Europe for us, isn't it?
It is. It is. It is almost noon here on Central Eastern time, I guess. Not Central Eastern, Central European time. Excuse me. I already mixed the time zones. I guess I still have some kind of jet lag from the trip back to US, but yeah, we've been with that Falcon 9 return to flight, and now suddenly an Atlas V just pops up on the schedule. That's always nice to have some mix of other rockets here as well. But we'll see what's going on today.
Yeah, and if I have things correct, this is going to be the final ever launch of a Department of Defense payload on board of the Atlas V, which has kind of become renowned for launching these government payloads. But I think this is the last launch they're going to have for the Space Force. So I've got what is that, like 8 Kuiper, Amazon Kuiper launches coming up. We've got 6 Starliner missions coming up. We've got a launch for Viasat, and that'll be it for the Atlas V.
Yep. Lots of stats about that we can mention over the course of today's live broadcast.
We've got 52 minutes to do it.
Yeah,
So-
we have plenty of time.
I should probably I just realised I never said my name, so I should probably do that. My name's Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. In the background, pushing buttons, Kevin Michael Reed, and in the field, spooling up things shortly, should be Julia and Dee. They were just rolling out there as well. So, it's a little bit early for everybody, so I don't know, we should probably factor a 1.5x the duration things take on that, because it is a little bit early in Florida, just approaching 6 o'clock in the morning here. But thank you, everybody who has managed to join us so far. Right then, I think we should probably get into a little bit of an overview of what we're meant to see today. And Alex, it's a bit of a long window, so this isn't the load and go that we're used to with Falcon 9. Atlas V, it's been loaded with RP1 in the core stage for a few days now, I believe, and we've got a longish window. I think we've got a 3-hour window ahead of us, so it spans from 6:45 local till 9:45 local. That's 10:45 till 13:45 UTC. And do we have any idea what's inside of that payload fairing?
It being a Department of Defense mission, sometimes we just don't know. And sometimes after the launch, they do tell things, because it's already happened, so they can be a bit more open about what else has been going on with the launch. And obviously, after decades, sometimes this information gets declassified, and we get to know, oh, it was this, it was that. Some military missions we also know well before the time of launch, because they are, it's classified, but it's like on the details on the payloads and things like that. But the satellites themselves are not classified, so they can talk about them and more or less what they're going to be doing. Like, you know, we've seen in the past, for example, for Falcon Heavy or Atlas V, military missions where they said, oh, it's some kind of weather satellite for the military, or it's some kind of missile detection satellite. So they say what else it is. They just don't go into the specifics. This mission, though, is from the first group where they don't tell us not even how many payloads are going, how many satellites are going on this mission. So we know it is going to geosynchronous orbit. As you can see there, that's sort of the mission profile we have that liftoff. The Atlas V that is launching today is launching on the 551 configuration. It's the heaviest, most powerful Atlas V configuration, as you were mentioning at the beginning of the broadcast. It is launching with a 5-meter diameter payload fairing, short version, because there are 3 versions of that fairing, the short, medium, and long. Fun fact, no Atlas has flown with a long 5-meter diameter fairing. So this is the short version, so whatever it is, it must not be that heavy in volume, but it's going very fast and very far away, so it needs the 5-meter diameter configuration because it has 5 solid rocket motors, those GM63 solid rocket motors that we saw separating on that animation from ULA. So once those fall off, then the payload fairing will separate and, you know, the magic will happen. That's pretty much where ULA will finish their broadcast today, and probably the extent of the coverage that we're probably going to be able to receive from them. But that's essentially the configuration: 5-meter diameter fairing, 5 solid rocket motors on the first stage, and of course one single RL-10 engine on the Centaur upper stage. It is probably a small payload, but going to very far geosynchronous orbit, so it's a high energy mission. It really needs all of that push from those 5 solid rocket motors, and of course when they carry those 5, they also need the 5-meter diameter fairing to protect the Centaur upper stage. If you saw that animation, the Centaur is enclosed inside of the payload fairing. So we don't know what it is carrying. I believe Julia and Dee were out there a couple of days ago, and they asked around, and you know the answer was like, we cannot say. Like, what else is carrying? How many payloads? How many satellites? What kind of... Nope, nothing at all. The only thing that we know, it's going to geosynchronous orbit, and that is all.
And speaking of Julia in the field, I believe we should have Julia with us.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the current media site where we are setting up, and it's shaping up to be a beautiful morning for a launch. And Alex, yeah, what we were told is we can neither confirm nor deny the existence of one or more satellites on this payload. So, surprise, super secret squirrel stuff today.
We'll just have to... Maybe this is why they're launching at this time of day, because they kind of want to disguise it and make sure that nobody really notices it, which is why they've been getting ready in the middle of the night. I don't know. I'm just throwing theories out there. I have not been told anything. Just saying. Anyways, so Alex, I'll throw you a question really quickly, because I think this is maybe this is just a niche that I'm really kind of oddly interested in. But the Atlas V has multiple configurations, right? That's what the 3 numbers are for. So today we have the 551. So we have 5 SRBs, a 5-meter fairing, and 1 engine on the Centaur upper stage. But there's not been every single configuration of Atlas there has ever been, or could be, right? Just like you were saying with the fairings, like there's options which don't happen. Like the Atlas V isn't going to last forever. It's only going to last until probably about 2030. But I'm kind of, I don't know, interested in the long-lost, never-been Atlas V variants, you know? So, like, do you know how many versions there have actually been and how many versions will, like, there will never be because they'll just never be flown? Because if I remember correctly, from now on, it's just the 551 and the N22, which is the Starliner configuration.
I believe every single configuration has been hit. I believe there's been the 401, so there's with 4-meter diameter fairing, which has already been phased out, by the way. They were able to do, yeah, it's not mine, definitely. I like the 5-meter diameter. So it had the option of no solar rocket motors, 1, 2, and I believe up to 3 was the limit. But once you go past 3, you need the 5-meter diameter fairing. But you also had missions that, needed the 5-meter diameter fairing because they were, bulky payloads, but maybe they were going to LEO. For example, the X-37B launched on the 501 configuration, which had 5-meter diameter fairing, but no solar rocket motors. That was a weird configuration. But I think that was cool because, 5-meter, I like 5-meter and no solar rocket motors, naked RD-180. It's always nice to see that. But yeah, I think every single configuration has been hit. I think only one configuration flew once. I remember there was a weird one. I think it was like with 1 solar rocket motor and 5-meter diameter fairing, which is like, I don't know. It's super weird because it's like, it's something maybe that is bulky, and you kind of need a bit more oomph, But other than that, the 551 configuration and 401 are essentially the ones that have flown the most because you either have a very low payload, right, that needs to go to low Earth orbit, or it's maybe a low payload that goes to GTO or something like that, or it's a very big, heavy, and everything in between. It's a little bit less common, especially, traditionally, and these days, it's less common. So going forward for Atlas V, we're expecting only the N22 configuration for Starliner and the 551 when it launches Kuiper. And there's also another launch which I think it's with a Viasat, one of the Viasat 3 satellites. There are 3 of those. One of them flew on Falcon Heavy. The other one will fly on Atlas V, and the third one we'll see where it flies on. Maybe Atlas V, maybe Vulcan, or maybe Falcon Heavy again. We'll see. But that's essentially what you get with Atlas V. Everything else will fly in Vulcan. And in fact, fun fact for today's mission, this mission was originally planned to launch on Vulcan. This was not supposed to launch on Atlas V. But because of the delays with Vulcan, I guess that's not a fun fact. It's just fact. Sad fact. There you go. But it is true that this mission was supposed to launch on a Vulcan rocket, but it did not launch on a Vulcan rocket because of the delays. And so the military said, okay, look, you still have one of these Atlas, roaming around on your facilities. Let's pick it up and fly this mission on that rocket. And, that was back when they were still producing Atlas Vs. They are no longer producing Atlas V. Everything is already accounted for. But that's essentially what they decided to do. Everything else, all of the other military missions from ULA have to fly on Vulcan, and hopefully they get to do that soon. I believe there's some hardware already on the way to the Cape for that, so we'll see.
Yeah, and you can see here these beautiful kind of pinkish, purpley, indigo colours lighting up the clouds here as the sun begins to rise over the Space Coast. Julia, I believe we're still about 40 minutes away from sunrise. However, is this what you're also seeing? Is the camera representing what is reality?
You are indeed seeing what is reality. We do have that pinky gray sky as the sun is working its way up. We still see a crescent moon, though, with a few planets in our, field of view away from the pad. And that could make for some very beautiful launch views in a little while.
And ULA confirming that the fuel fill sequence is beginning with the RP1 there as they get ready to prep the vehicle ahead of that RD-180 main engine ignition. What's the clock? In about 41 minutes time.
Mm-hmm. That is something that usually on other rockets is maybe called like engine bleed or things like that. I believe that's what they call it on the Firefly stream. They talk about how they flowed some of that RP1 through the engine so that, if there's any cavities or any sort of, bubbles of something, it pushes it out. They do the same with Merlins on the Falcon 9 at about 90 minutes before launch. They do that kind of procedure as well. So, just usual standard procedure here with the engine.
And I probably should have said this a little earlier, but anyways, we've scooped some people from doing it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If you have any questions, tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight. We're getting some really good questions in the queue today, so let's have a look through here. First of all, Increase SFS asking, why is it L minus and not T minus? Well, ULA does this thing that SpaceX doesn't do. Well, they don't really do with Falcon. They don't do it with Falcon, should I say. They do it a little bit with Starship, but it's a test program. So L minus stands for, if I'm correct, launch minus, Alex, and that's counting down to the actual launch time. T minus, on the other hand, I think is terminal minus. Is that right?
I think it's just the time in the countdown in general.
Okay. Anyway, T minus has holds in it because Atlas and Vulcan and Delta and those rockets that ULA fly, instead of timing things like fueling to like T minus 4 hours, whatever, or whatever their schedule may be, they'll run the clock up to say T minus 4 minutes and then just start holding. And then they have loads of wiggle room, which is why they can have these 3-hour-long windows whilst they've already started to fuel the Atlas V. So, Alex, why can ULA hold for a few hours with propellant on board while, say, the Falcon 9 can't?
Yeah, so ULA uses the RP1, for example, is at whatever temperature is in Florida right now, and both the liquid oxygen and the liquid hydrogen are loaded at the boiling point. So for Falcon 9, for example, the RP1 is chilled down a little bit. I think it is to about -7 degrees Celsius. And on the liquid oxygen side, they also subcool it. Instead of loading it to the boiling point, they just make it colder so that, it's more denser and you can pack more fuel, well, more liquid oxygen, onto the same volume of tanks. So what it does is that, if you let that liquid oxygen and that kerosene warm up, then they change all their properties, they get less dense, and eventually you lose that performance from Falcon 9. So they get through a much more quicker propellant load sequence that only lasts 35 minutes. So for example, if today was a Falcon 9 launch, we are 38 minutes away from launch, it will still not be undergoing fueling. However, Atlas V, on the other hand, is completely fully loaded right now with both the kerosene, the liquid hydrogen, and the liquid oxygen. They are both loaded, all 4 tanks on Atlas and Centaur. They are all loaded right now. They are just doing the final checks as they get ready for that. We should get onto the last planned hold here in just a few minutes. That will be at should be the L-34, if I remember correctly, because they hold at the T-4 minute point in the count, and they get there, they essentially hold there the count on purpose for 30 minutes until they go back to L-4 minutes, and then both L- and T- clocks synchronize, and then we count down all the way to 0. Hopefully that'll be the case in 37 minutes from now, that we get to that 0 right at the opening of the window. So far, I have not seen any comments from either Tori or from ULA about any sort of problems. The weather looks good. I actually saw Tori saying that the weather is actually 85% go, which, if you've seen, for example, the 45th Weather Squadron weather forecast, it said yesterday 80, so it's gone a little bit better. It's a little bit better today. So, weather is good. There doesn't seem to be any sort of issues with Atlas. So hopefully we'll get that launch in 36.5 minutes.
And that beautiful sunrise is starting to look very pretty indeed, with the kind of orangey hues. I'm using colour words, kind of rising behind the clouds there. There you go.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it looks so good.
Very, very pretty. And we'll get multiple different views as well, because I believe this is looking down from the LC-39 press site. So obviously we're looking a little bit south here. We'll also have some views looking a bit north. So, and Alex, do we know the exact trajectory this mission is going, or is that going to be classified like the payload?
Well, fortunately, they cannot do anything about the trajectory, because they need to say to people in the air and people on boats and things like that, they need to tell them, hey, there's gonna be rocket parts raining down on you, so get out of there. So we know, of course, where it's going. And in fact, because they cannot really hide it, they actually say, hey, what else? If you want to see it, here's a they have this infographic from ULA telling you where to look at and like when is it going to be appearing on your sky and things like that. So it's going to go straight east out of the Cape, and it's targeting geosynchronous orbit. So you don't need to target any higher inclination. The lower inclination that you get out of the Cape, the better. So they go straight east. They go to that 28 more or less degree inclination, first low Earth orbit, and then they'll probably do maybe a second or third burn of the Centaur upper stage. We don't know officially, of course, but if they're going to geosynchronous, there's only a way to get there, which is multiple burns of that Centaur upper stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
the
there you go, that is that.
infographic.
Yeah, so if you're in Florida or the Bahamas, then you probably have a pretty good shot of looking at this. Maybe sunrise might get in your way as it starts to go to the east. Don't, obviously, goes without saying, do not look directly at the sun. So, yeah, you might be able to see something. You might go outside, have a look anyway, What's the harm in doing that? Keep us on your phone, go outside, have a look. So, what's the time now looking? Just gone to we're approaching 11 minutes past 6 in the morning local time in Florida, and sunrise is scheduled for, I say scheduled, it's not like you can scrub sunrise. It should be coming up very shortly at 6:43, which is 2 minutes
guys,
before the
the
window
sun
opens.
will not come out today.
I don't know why I said scheduled, but it is. It's going to rise. It's going to peak above the horizon at 6:43 Eastern Time, which is 2 minutes before the opening of the window. So, Julia, we have had some people in chat asking jellyfish. Will we get a jellyfish, or will that sun get in the way for that to happen?
There are definitely possibilities. Always possibilities with the jellyfish at this time of day, right around sunrise.
We'll just have to wait and see. I mean, these colours are just beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. Especially that orange behind the cloud there, behind the
It's
atlas.
orange.
Wonderful. Have a look through here. Mike is asking, how many Atlas launches are left now that Vulcan is starting up? So, Alex, we did already mention that Atlas V is a dying breed, but exactly how many launches do they have left before they're going to retire this whole family of rockets?
So they have another non-Kuiper launch, I guess, which is the Viasat launch. Other than that, they have all those Kuiper missions and the Starliner missions. So they have the 6 Starliner operational missions. I believe it was 8 remaining Kuiper, because they had 9 under contract, but they already flew one, the protoflight, if you remember, from, I think it was last year. I think so, right? So 8 plus 6, that's 14, plus the 1 for Viasat, that's 15. Plus today, this will be like the 16th, I guess, of the remaining flights. So after this one, it's 15 missions, if I'm not mistaken. So I maybe, plus minus 1 launch here. You gotta take into account that maybe I'm missing something here, but I think that's all they have left for Atlas, the Kuiper missions, Starliner, and that Viasat 3 spacecraft as well. So that's essentially 15 missions.
And we also... There it is. I lost my cue for a second there. I think we should probably also hit through some of the support we've been getting, because we've been getting support even before the stream started. Which always amazes me. Like, there's people just sitting here waiting for the stream to start, and then they start supporting us. But we had Anthony Gomez. That's the name I recognise, if it's the one Anthony Gomez. Has become a PADRAP member. We also have Michael becoming a flight engineer member. That's the top level, I think, of support that we do in the membership program.
Wow.
So thank you very much, because that's a very significant recurring monthly payment. So hopefully you enjoy all of your perks in there, and we're always trying to see if we can get more perks into that program and maybe there's more coming. I don't know. Stay tuned. It's only one way to find out, I guess. We also have Flippers gifting a Red Team membership, and Jacques gifting a Red Team membership. So thank you both for gifting a membership. If you received them, make sure you've thanked them in chat, because, you know, gifting memberships, they are able, so the person gifting them supports NSF. YouTube then randomly selects someone in chat to receive that. It's based on, I think it's probably based on watch time or whatever, but, you know, the more you watch NSF, the more likely you are to be gifted a membership by someone who gifts them.
And
You know,
you
when you
also need
gift a
to be
membership,
active.
and you need to be active. That's another good point. You
Yeah.
need to be active in chat. So we don't pick who the gifted memberships go to. We can't like block anyone from getting a gifted membership or anything silly like that. It's purely algorithmic basedness that YouTube does in order to gift those memberships. So yeah, thank you everybody who has been gifting them. It's greatly appreciated. And Booster 1058 just in the queue now with the €2. Hashtag Chaos Crew, you know who you are. Beautiful sunrise there on the left from, I think that's from one of our Cape cams. So that's looking more to the north. So, I mean, these views are going to be absolutely stunning in 29 minutes time when we get this launch, fingers crossed, of the Atlas V. And Alex, I believe according to ULA, everything's still looking good, weather good.
Yeah, right now they are on that planned hold. Planned, stressing here, planned hold. They have these holds that, you know, last for about 30 minutes. Yeah, right now the T-minus 4 minutes. So if you see that L clock on the top left of our webcast, it says 28. That is the L minus clock. We already explained that difference a few minutes ago. So if you missed that, scroll back. But yeah, we are right now on that planned hold at T-minus 4 minutes in the count. They are go on all accounts. They say that they are on schedule for that 6:45 a.m. Eastern time for launch time. That will be 10:45 UTC. And weather is go. So everything is looking perfect for today's launch. So hopefully everything remains like that in 28 minutes from now.
And you can see here, D has managed to, who's alongside Julia, D has managed to roll out there and is at the press area for today's launch. You got that. Julia, if I'm correct, then we should have the vertical integration facility kind of in front and to the left of the rocket in this shot from where you're standing. And then if we look across, we've got the Atlas V beautifully lit up on Slick 41.
That is correct. That is what you are seeing. And it's honestly really shaping up to be a beautiful morning here. And where we are today, we also have members of the 45th viewing with us. So you may see some people in the foreground, just a heads up. It's a very busy location, and there's a lot of people excited to see this launch.
It's always wonderful when you can just, you know, roll out, watch a wonderful rocket launch before work, and then, you know, it's always a good way to start. Well, I would say it's always a good day to start the day. I wouldn't know because I don't work at the 45th, but I would imagine it's a nice way to start the day with a launch. Let's have a look through here. High Reactivity is asking, does the Atlas V use Russian engines? And Alex, I'll throw this one over to you.
Yeah, so the RD-180 on the Atlas booster, it is indeed a Russian engine by Energomash. That's essentially going back all the way to the, I think it was the Atlas 2 or the Atlas 3 that first used it, and that sort of carried over to the Atlas V eventually. Yeah, so these engines obviously are going to be phased out eventually, you know, using Vulcan. Vulcan has the B-Force from Blue Origin. The upper stage still is an RL-10 from Aerojet Rocketdyne. So, you know, they're going to get rid of those, but of course they have that stockpile, so to speak. They haven't bought any new engines, I think, since 2020. So they have this stockpile of already made RD-180 engines that they're putting on all of these Atlas Vs that are going to be launching pretty much all the way till the end of the decade, because, you know, those Starliner missions are probably going to be going all the way to 2028, 2029, so that's when we're going to see probably the last Atlas V mission.
And we also had another question in here from Xavier asking, how cheap is this launch in comparison with a Falcon Heavy with the military payload? Alex, do we know? Or is the price another thing that's classified?
You know, I will have to look it up, but I could do it. Yeah, the problem is they also got recently on a sort of like an amendment kind of thing to their contracts, so now it's different. But
So
depending
they
on the
gave
kind
them
of
an initial
mission,
amount of money and then they gave them more money?
yeah. So it's complicated to explain, but this is the National Security Space Launch Contract Phase 2, which is the one that went to ULAs, Vulcan, and SpaceX's Falcon and Falcon, so Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy. The problem is they got a certain money for different types of missions, and we don't know exactly the breakdown per mission. We sometimes know when they get like 3 missions in a row or something like that, and we know maybe it's like 400 million or something like that, and so you gotta have to do some kind of average or things like that. Sometimes they get 20 missions in a row between each, provider, and so you have to do an even greater average. We don't know exactly the per mission value. But on top of this, like a month ago or maybe a couple of weeks ago, they got another extension, so to speak. Like they got more money, both ULA and SpaceX, on top of whatever they got already for all of these phase 2 missions. So it complicates even more everything, because you don't know, like, okay, this added money, what is it about? Is it USSF-51, or maybe it's NROL-69, for example, which is coming up for SpaceX? Like, you don't really know what kind of addition of this money is going to, like, this money may be going to one type of mission, the other type of mission. So unfortunately, we don't really know much in terms of the comparison. Now, for this kind of mission, though, SpaceX has already done this kind of mission. GSO or geosynchronous orbits of this type, they have already done USSF-44 on Falcon Heavy and USSF-67 on Falcon Heavy as well. And they were, comparable with the Vulcan version of these missions. But with the Atlas, ULA is probably losing money there because they bid on this mission probably thinking they were going to be flying Vulcan, but they're flying Atlas. And we know, Vulcan is a lot cheaper, or at least they intended for it to be a lot cheaper than Atlas. So they're probably losing some money here.
And ULA's weather officer confirming weather is still go for the opening of the window, which, as you can see in the top left of your screen, 22.5 minutes to go until that window opens. So fingers crossed they'll be able to launch directly at the top of that window. That'd be very nice and dandy. Luke has been in the store. Thank you very much. Also asking, alongside a couple of prints here from this Artemis 1 print. That's a more elegant way of putting that from Nathan. We've also got one from Max. He's asking, is this the most powerful version of Atlas 5? Keep up the great work. So Alex, I believe because this has the 5 SRBs, this is the most powerful variant that they have ever flown, correct?
Yeah, this is indeed the most powerful Atlas 5. There are no plans to do any more powerful versions of Atlas. It's already being phased out, as I was mentioning, but there's Vulcan ahead, and Vulcan will have even up to 6 solid rocket motors, so it's going to be more powerful. Both the main engines are more powerful than the RD-180, and also the solid rocket motors are even more powerful because they are, so both Atlas 5 from today and the Vulcan both have the GEM 63 solid rocket motors, but on Vulcan they are the GEM 63 XL, so they are a little bit longer, therefore they have a lot more thrust, and so it's going to be a lot more powerful with those 6 solid rocket boosters. I cannot wait until we see Vulcan with all of the solid rocket motors, like, full
That's
power.
going to be some nice photos.
Oh yeah. It's probably going to be very hard for photographers to get some kind of, engine shot, but I cannot wait. That's a great problem to have. I'm just going to say, like, that's a really great problem. Being like, how do I set up my cameras to be able to shoot this, right? It's like, come on.
I'm now going to enter the world of being pedantic, and technically, Alex, if they flew a Atlas V with 5 SRBs but 2 engines on the center upper stage, would that technically be more powerful than the 551? Is that how physics works?
Well, it will carry more payload to low Earth orbit, but it will not carry more payload to a high energy orbit. Because that extra engine on the Centaur upper stage actually increases the dry mass, it is good to carry high payloads to low Earth orbit because, if you have a really heavy payload, you kind of need the extra oomph from that second engine to be able to carry it into orbit. But if you have a low payload mass, then that extra engine, you don't really need it because it's not a huge payload, right? You're just carrying it to a high energy. So if you want to carry it to a high energy, like today's mission, for example, then you don't need that second engine. And in fact, you will actually, add an engine just to add one engine. It will add to your dry mass, essentially removing part of your payload performance because you're adding dry mass to your second stage that you don't really need. Back in the day, Dream Chaser was supposed to launch on Atlas V, but then they moved to Vulcan. When it was supposed to launch on Atlas V, it was supposed to launch on the 552 configuration because it is a heavy payload going to a low Earth orbit. So they needed the Centaur with the 2 engines on it. But nowadays the only Atlas launching with 2 engines on Centaur is the one for Starliner.
And we also have Telstar86 gifting a Red Team membership. Thank you very much, Telstar86, one of those names we see quite a lot. Another one of those names is Apocalypse Cow, gifting 5 Red Team memberships, so thank you both. Ronald becoming a Pad Rat member, so thank you very much. And we also have Waco here, with a $10 super chat. Thank you very much for that, saying, I love to watch launches. I'm also old enough to remember watching the Echo balloons in orbit. I feel like that's maybe a little bit niche, but I know what you're talking about, and that's very, very cool. And this picture we have right now on your screen is from Julia, taken from the rollout, I believe a couple of days ago, as the Atlas V was transported on its big kind of train thing. I forgot what the official name of it is, so I do apologise for blanking on that. But it was rolled out on the rails to the launch pad from that big vertical integration facility you can see on the right picture-in-picture box there with the big ULA logo on it. That's the VIF. So that's where they stack the rockets and then they roll them out to the pad. And there you go. You can see it inside the VIF now, along with those rails. So fits very snugly in there.
It's funny because you can see the other one that they're building, the VIF-2, I guess. And then way in the background, you can see SpaceX's payload processing facility. It's kind of crazy. They share, that sort of land. But it always gives, some kind of perspective of how close neighbors they are.
It's getting much, much brighter now. It's looking to the south as we approach 17 minutes to go. But still, very, very pretty skies behind the Atlas. Again, if you have any questions, tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight. And this is actually a good question here from a friendly Starbase worker asking, does anyone remember when Atlas V Heavy was an idea? So, Alex, do you know what happened to Atlas V Heavy? Because there's some renders, should I say, and maybe even some physical models of an Atlas V with 3 booster cores.
Yeah, they used to have this sort of configuration that they thought about way early in the program of just trapping 3 Atlas V first stages together and just doing an Atlas Heavy kind of thing, just like Falcon Heavy or Delta IV Heavy. But turns out that that was back when it was just Lockheed Martin, but then ULA formed out of the, just combining essentially ULA being Boeing with the Delta series of rockets and Lockheed with the Atlas V. So when they joined together, it was like, well, why make an Atlas Heavy, if we already have the Delta for Heavy, it's already operational. We don't really need any other heavy capability like this, tribal core or anything like it. And at the end of the day, the amount of payloads that the Atlas Heavy could have flown, it was not a lot of payloads, and so it didn't make sense. Although there's been already word that they've been studying Vulcan Heavy with 3 cores. We'll see if that ever happens. That will be funny though.
Yeah, I'll
wouldn't be
believe it when I
against
see it. That would be kind of crazy. ULA confirming that the upper level winds, one of those things that we always look out for, have been classed as not successful, acceptable. That's the word I was looking for a launch at 45 minutes past the hour. That's 6:45 local time, 10:45 universal time, also known as just under 15 minutes from now, as these beautiful pink and blue skies are now kind of rolling over the Cape. You can also see it reflecting, and there's a Falcon 9 getting in the way of my shot here, which is, thanks SpaceX. Anyways, I was going to say, what a beautiful sunrise shot, but SpaceX has just parked a Falcon 9 in the front of it on a drone ship, which is just coming back. Alex, is this from 10-4? Starlink 10-4?
Yeah, this is B-1077 after its 14th flight. It is coming back home. We had yesterday the arrival of B-1069, and now it is the next booster that flew this weekend, and hopefully we're going to get one of those drone ships out again, because we have more launches this weekend. We have another Starlink. We have NG-21. That's going to be a return to launch site, so no drone ship needed, but we're probably going to see the fair and recovery vessels. So, plenty of missions this weekend. With Atlas, 2 Falcons. It's amazing.
Very busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a busy time of year on the Space Coast with there's a helicopter buzzing past in the background. There we go. Probably one of those security helicopters that do those sweeps, making sure, I don't know, nobody's trying to see the super secret payload inside of the fairing. I don't know. Maybe they're working with the aggregate. I don't know. Or something or other. Security. Let's just leave it at that. Let's have a look through here. High reactivity. Alex, this is another good one. Asking, when a smart reuse for Vulcan?
Oh, I believe Tori said that they had already passed the critical design review or something like that, which means usually, there's these traditional design programs and everything. So when you pass CDR, the critical design review, usually you get into manufacturing and things like that. So, and he also said that they are building 23 Vulcan boosters so far. So maybe one of those already has some kind of smart stuff on it. And they're probably going to need that for Amazon's Kuiper constellation, because that's a lot of missions and a lot of engines to go through. So hopefully we see something about that. Maybe not next year, but if they are actually serious about that, maybe 2026. My guess, we'll see.
Yeah. And we have another update from ULA. So the weather is still holding at go. There's no technical issues to be addressed, and we are still targeting that 45 minutes past the hour T0 time. And they also bring up a very some good stats, which we are going to talk about today because I'm in charge and I want to talk about them. Saying that it's the 683rd Atlas launch since 1957 and that 101st Atlas V. And Alex, that 683rd Atlas family launch since 1967, I think that's a very good point, because on this 683rd final Atlas launch since 1957, this is going to be their final launch for the Department of Defense, for the US Space Force, for a government payload. And I think that's kind of significant, because this is a rocket which has kind of become renowned for those government contracts, for government payloads, and at the end of a decades-long streak, that is going to be coming to an end today.
Yeah, these are, so ULA, so one thing is the legacy rockets, of course, from ULA, from Delta, like way back when it was Thor, and the early Atlas, the Atlas E, D, G, whatever, all those Atlas from back then. But this, for example, this infographic shows all of the missions for national security missions that have occurred under the ULA name. So there you can see 99 national security missions, essentially outlining 57 Atlas 5s, 34 Delta 4s, and 8 Delta 2s. Today will be the 58th for Atlas, and therefore the 100th national security mission for ULA. So, it's a bit sort of like it's the last national security mission for Atlas, but it's also the 100th for ULA. It's a bit of a...
It's a bit bittersweet.
Yeah, and also it's the 101st Atlas 5, which means there's being, I think, 40 something Atlas 5s that have not been national security. So there's been more national security Atlas 5s than non-national security, which gives you the point that Atlas 5 has been really important for the government to be able to launch all of those missions.
We also have Wade, I believe, watching down from Coco, bringing us this, or that area
That's
at least,
so
bringing
gorgeous.
us this beautiful shot here with the sunrise, with the dawn sky reflecting in the still water there. So there we go, it's back. Beautiful, beautiful feed from Wade. So thank you very much, Wade, for getting out there at this 6:30 in the morning local time. Dare I say I wouldn't be able to get up that early. But anyways, we've got a rocket launch to look at in 9 minutes' time.
Speaking of 9 minutes time, I believe we are 2 minutes away from that usual L-7 go-no-go poll. So we're going to try and get that, whatever they say about that, because usually they do this sort of go-no-go poll. And unlike SpaceX doesn't do the usual go, no go, and everything, but they do. ULA does that, so we'll see.
Also, I just very quickly want to ask Julia if she's been getting any kind of the feels, or if she knows anyone who's also been getting the kind of, I don't know if nostalgia is the right word, but this is the last government mission on an Atlas V. So is there anything like that going around? Do you know?
Well, I can say that when we were at rollout, there definitely were a lot of feels with the folks who were speaking to us, not only from ULA, but from the 45th and the Space Force. So there is nostalgia. I can say, like you said, it's a beautiful way to start your day watching with your family this launch. And it does seem, although it is an early morning launch, that there is a pretty darn good turnout here on base joining us at this location. So I think there is a little bit of nostalgia, but a lot of looking forward to the future as well.
Yeah, everyone's excited, which is nice to see, because there's a big rocket which is about to launch, so why wouldn't you be excited? 7.5 minutes to go on that count. That's the view inside mission control for ULA. They all have their game faces on, so they're obviously got a very important job to do, so we'll let them get on with their job. But I'm seeing a lot of coffee, but I'm not seeing any yawns, which is probably a good thing at this time of day.
That was Denver. The last view that we saw there was from Colorado, so that's 2 hours.
Status check to proceed with terminal count.
Here we go.
Atlas system. Propulsion. Go. Hydraulics. Go. Pneumatics. Go. LO2. Go. Water. Go. Centaur systems. Propulsion. Go. Pneumatics. Go. LO2. Go. LH2. Go. Has gas. Go. Electrical systems airborne. Go. Ground. Go. Facility. Go. RFFTS. Go. Flight control. Go. GCQ. Go. Op support. Go. Go. Umbilicals. Go. UCS. Go. Redline monitor. Go. Quality. Quality net 1. Go. Op safety manager. Go. ULA safety officer. Go. Vehicle system engineer. Go. Anomaly chief. Go. Range coordinator. Clear to proceed. Launch director.
Launch vehicle is ready to launch.
Mission director.
This is the mission director. You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC, verify 20 is set, 10:45 So,
Verified.
Polling
There
is
you go.
complete.
Go, go,
The
go
ULA
across
launch
the
team.
board. And the quality person there had us waiting for a little while, but anyway, they did confirm go in the end. I was a little bit worried for about 5 seconds, and then I think they were probably talking on the wrong net there. But go across the board. We're good for a launch in 5 and a bit minutes. Very
Let's
exciting.
go. NSF is
Alex,
go.
are you go?
I'm go.
You go. Julia, are you go?
Speaking while muted, but yes, I am go.
Wonderful. And we're getting up on about 5 minutes there. Do you have cameras to deal with today? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
I will be fine. I do have a camera, but I can stay with you on commentary.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much for that. And we also have, as I said, I'll say it again, we've got you in the field, we've got D in the field as well at the media viewing location. We've got our robots everywhere scattered across the Cape, looking from multiple different locations and angles and everything. So we have got many cameras eyeing up this Atlas V, which is meant to launch in 4.5 minutes. 30 seconds until these two clocks are meant to synchronize. We have the L- clock, the T- clock. The T- clock has been holding at 4 minutes for a little while now. That will then should start resuming at L- 4 minutes, and then the L- clock and the T- clock, they match. So that's what we're expecting in 10 seconds time. Just have to wait and see if ULA's countdown starts ticking. I'm not sure about the sync. Is there a word for how something in sync is? I don't know. Anyway, we'll keep going. And
And the
ULA
whole
confirms the
released.
countdown is resuming. Here we go. So it's happening. Wonderful. Not that I want it to happen, Alex, but do you know if ULA are able to enter into another hold from this point if they have to?
I believe they have up until it's under 1 minute when they have like the last cutoff, but between now and that point in the count, they can essentially recycle back to T-4 minutes. I know there's like a point in which they can no longer do that. Precisely like at engine ignition, of course, they cannot go back. But even before that, I think there's some point. I don't remember exactly though. Other rockets like SLS, for example, do have similar cutoffs where you can go maybe to 30 seconds, 20 seconds in the count, but you cannot go beyond that and be able to hold and recycle for the day. But there's plenty of time there. If they need to wait a little bit and hold for whatever reason, they can go back to the T-4 minute mark and go again through the terminal count.
ULA right now is just going to be securing up the replenishment of that first stage liquid oxygen, so they can get that tank pressurized up for launch. 2.5 minutes to go. You can see that frostiness on the outside of the core stage there, just in between the SRBs and the bottom of the kind of interstage fairing area there. So that's what they're currently working on to get ready for this launch coming up. And yeah, we're now approaching T-2 minutes to go. Those beautiful clouds still rolling in the background. Very, very pretty day for a launch with a big rocket ready to go. The biggest that ULA makes. Biggest Atlas that ULA makes.
Exactly.
Oh, I'll stop myself very quickly with that one.
And hopefully Vulcan will launch in about a month and a half from now. I think it's like middle of September. So that'll be the next ULA launch. Look at the flare stack on the right.
You can see that going off, but you can also see the heat haziness. Is that the word? Also going off above that. It's kind of manipulating the light that's coming through there. 90 seconds-ish to go. But yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful flame stack action there. And that's to burn off the RP. What is that to burn off, Alex? Sorry.
That is for the hydrogen. There's another one for the methane when they use
Oh,
Vulcan.
of course. Yeah. Because they've got the hydrogen in there for the Centaur, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
I completely forgot about the hydrogen. Suddenly, that makes a lot of sense.
1 minute. Look at the sun.
Yeah, this is just going to be absolutely stunning. So stand by, everybody, because we're 50 seconds to go. This is going to be so pretty. Just 40-ish seconds to go now. That sun just peeking over the horizon. It officially rose a minute and 20 seconds ago. Very, very slowly creeping up, but it's giving this beautiful dawn lighting effect to the entire cape. We're under 30 seconds now. You can see that flame stack still going. Look at that beautiful flame stack action at this hour. 15-ish seconds to go now. Going to enter the final 10 seconds for the count.
We'll go for
We'll
launch.
start
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition and liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, carrying USSF-51 for the United States Space Force on ULA's 100th National Security Mission.
Hydraulics look good. We are throttling down in preparation for max Q. Is everything looking good? P is at closed loop control. And roll program did complete on time. Mach 1. Vehicle's now supersonic. Engine continues to operate normally. SRBs burning normally. Everything looking good.
You are hearing the voice of Rob Gannon providing launch vehicle ascent data.
And max Q. We're throttling up post max Q as expected. Everything looking good, following the expected profile. SRBs burning normally. RD-180 operating expected throttle level. Everything looking good. Body weights look good. We have now throttled down in preparation for SRB burnout. We are now 50% of our liftoff weight. SRB is rolling off. And we have SRB burnout. 10 seconds to SRB jettison. SRB jet. All 5 SRBs successfully jettisoned the vehicle. RD-180 is throttled up and operating normally. Everything looking good. We're now 34 miles in altitude, 36 miles downrange, traveling at 4,200 miles per hour. Quick review of our range track. Vehicles proceeding right down the center of the range track. Everything looking good. And we did enable closed loop steering a few seconds ago. Everything looks good there. Next event we're looking for is throttling down to a constant 2.5 G limit for payload fairing jettison. And we've begun the throttle down, now holding a constant 2.5 Gs in preparation for fairing jet. And we fired the pyro valve, activating the reaction control system on the second stage. And we just passed through the von Karman line, 25% of liftoff weight. Ten seconds to fairing jet. We have fairing jettison. And CLFR deck jettison. And we throttled up the RD-180.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T plus 3 minutes and 38 seconds.
Well, that's gonna be the coverage, I guess, they do for this classified mission.
No on boards, but we are well and truly underway with USSF-51. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful liftoff time there. Just, you know, the Atlas V, the most powerful configuration they have, ascending into this dawn sky on a column of SRB plume. You can still see it lingering in the atmosphere. Just a beautiful, beautiful launch. absolutely incredible views. That the rocket is still not on the very much not on the pad. I can confirm that.
Yeah, those are replays.
But here we go. Replays of what
Leaps
happened
off
4.5
pad.
minutes ago. Yeah, just absolutely yeets itself off of that pad. It has 5 solid rocket boosters. Those are so powerful. Just a beautiful ascent here over the Space Force base. Over that payload processing facility that SpaceX uses.
And the second VIF. It was really gorgeous when it went into the sunlight, and it was like, it's
Yeah.
orange! I don't know.
I think for a moment there, I think you could still see it. Yes, they have a little vent that sticks off the side of the Atlas V, right, Alex? And I think we could just see that maybe.
Yeah, that one is for the hydrogen tank on the center upper stage. They connect that when it is on the ground, and it's sort of like a relief valve for that tank, and it still needs it when it's going up because it's enclosed inside of the payload fairing. But once the payload fairing separates, then they don't need it anymore because the Centaur is on its own and free and everything. So yeah.
And we can see the pad now. I'm not sure if cooling down is the right word, but it's recovering. I don't know. It's just taken a blast from 5 SRBs and RD-180 and that Atlas V there. So it's probably it deserves a little bit of a rest here for a few moments. So we'll let the teams work on that pad already as that Falcon 9 continues to roll its way into port.
Yeah, they must have had a
Starlink
really
mission.
good view.
Yeah, that would have been a very pretty view, especially from that bit of the water there. You can see that SRB plume just lingering, and you can see here. I think this is actually a really good example of how the jellyfish effect works, because you can see the sun shining brighter on those upper parts of that plume, whilst it's not yet risen on the lower parts of the plume, which is why, as the vehicle ascended into the high parts of the atmosphere, especially after SRB SEP, you could see the plume, the Carolox plume, start to expand with that kind of jellyfish dawn effect there, as the upper atmosphere lighting scatters through the propellant stuff. I don't know the physics of it, but all I know is that it looks very pretty.
I believe that previous view that we were seeing, that was from way...
Exhaust, that's the word. Thanks, Kevin.
The exhaust. There you go. You got the word. I was trying to to be like, what is he referring to?
And that sun continues to rise over.
And we saw those replays from ULA, by the way. We also have our own replays. We're sort of gathering all that footage right now. So stick around because we're going to show all of those. There's been some great views from today's launch. And you can see they have, deployed sort of the waterfall kind of thing on that tower. That's usual for what they do, because there's a lot of nasty solid rocket motors and everything. There might have been some kind of grass burning. You can see a little bit of that smoke. It's normal. Too much power.
Kind of drifting across from the right side at the moment.
And then I believe that's the liquid oxygen sphere, usually doing its own venting.
Julia, if we have you back with us, we're 8 minutes past that launch time. I would imagine that was a very, very pretty thing to see in person.
It was indeed a very, very pretty thing to see in person, and I hope you all enjoyed the views. I saw some of them crossing my phone, and they were gorgeous. And that exhaust plume is still absolutely lit up and beautiful. And let me tell you, that solids rumble, that's something special.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Solid rocket boosters is something I am yet to experience, and something which is on my bucket list. So, unfortunately, though, the rockets which use solid rocket boosters tend to be the rockets which like to kind of slip in the schedule quite a lot. Dare I say SLS, which has slipped a little bit. And these Atlases and Vulcans sometimes don't go on the first opportunity which they are advertised. But, one day.
Today was a good day for Yeah, today was a good day for people that don't like, unplanned holes or delays or anything, because it went off right on the first attempt.
Is that?
I don't know if we
I was,
maybe be able to like see where that smoke is coming from. I'm mostly sure that's probably the usual grass burning from rocket exhaust.
yeah,
Another,
I was. It looked like it was lightening up for a little second there, but it's thickening up again now. But I do not believe that'll be anything to worry about.
yeah,
Rockets are
we've
big.
seen that in the
Rockets
past.
make lots of fire at the end, so it's.
Yeah,
I think this is probably the least unexpected thing that's going to happen when you put grass at the end of a big flame trench with an Atlas V on the other end. Very quickly, I am just going to have a look through here. Christopher, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Thank you very much for the super chat. It's greatly appreciated. We'll just have to wait and see what ends up in the store. Let's leave it at that. And Alex, a question for you quickly. Tap asking, why is Vulcan staying with solid rocket motors? Because it's their new rocket, and SRBs are seen, well, I'd say they're kind of seen as a little bit old school. So why are they sticking with the SRBs?
well, with the SRBs, what they can do is sort of tailor the performance of the rocket to whatever mission they do. So if you don't have any solid rocket motors, for example, the performance of Vulcan is, I think, only like 9 tons to low Earth orbit and not very much for higher energy missions. So you can launch a low payload to a low Earth orbit, for example. If you only need that, you don't really need a very powerful rocket to do that. You can just essentially, not put the solid rocket motors. If you want a heavy payload to a high energy mission orbit or whatever, then you can put more solid rocket motors and increase the performance. It's a bit of a tailored kind of thing there, where you can just add or remove some of these boosters, and then you get different performance from the rocket. You can think of it not exactly the same, but very similar to how SpaceX tailors their recovery for the boosters depending on the performance of the mission. So some missions are very easier for the rocket, and so they are able to return all the way back to land. Other missions, though, are higher energy, and they need to land on a drone ship, or sometimes even expand the booster. So, that's sort of the same kind of thinking here. And, whenever you have to expand the booster because you need a lot more performance, that mission will be a lot more expensive because you need to expand more stuff. In the case of Vulcan, when it flies with all 6 solid rocket motors, it's going to be more expensive because you're putting a lot more hardware on it. But if you fly a lighter payload, you don't need that many motors, and therefore you can fly a cheaper rocket. So similar thing with Falcon, where you are able to return back to land. You don't need to deploy the drone ship, therefore it's going to be cheaper to fly.
Just approaching 13 minutes after launch here. If you're just joining us, stay tuned. We've got some replays on the way. Don't fear, we have got replays on the way. So do stay tuned for those. Sun is still rising over the Cape. And here we go. Replays, as I said they were happening. Here they are. Very, very quick ascent here. The initial jump off the pad with those 5 SRBs. This isn't nearly as fast as a model rocket, but it's getting there. Maybe in the scale of the vehicle. If you take the scale of the vehicle into account, maybe not, but it's still going very, very quickly.
But usually when things go fast, the thing that you tend to do is you slow mo. We have one. Yeah. We have one of those. So get ready for that.
And here you go. This is also the wide view, especially with these vehicles that have those solids on board. You can see the plume of the SRB, and it just stays there. Unlike the liquid fuel, which kind of dissipates into the atmosphere a little bit, the SRB plume just lingers there, and it stays there, and it means you can get like kind of iconic shots if you think about the shuttle program. I mean, Atlas V with these SRBs, just beautiful kind of ascent here. I believe This is auto track giving it a go. You can see that plume from the flame trench just being lit up there. I mean, these are just incredible shots at this time of day. Oh, forgive me, this is actually a gauge track and not an auto track. So we replaced the computer and the AI with a human. And Gage did a good job. Well done, Gage.
Human track.
And you can really see the power here from that Atlas V because it just starts to shake everything, especially those SRBs. The camera just starts to wobble like crazy, and there's nothing we can do about it because there's a big, powerful rocket in the way. Got a beautiful launch there. Oh, especially as it goes into that little bit of a cloud there. Oh, we've got fleet cam as well, with another Falcon 9 booster photobombing in the foreground, but you can see that little speck of light in the background. That's the Atlas V launching from Slick 41. Becomes a little bit easier to see when we get further into flight because you can see that trail of the SRB plume.
You know, when we're switching... Sorry. Go ahead.
Go on, Alex. Oh, okay.
I was going to say, because look at that. Like, you can see the arc, you know, that the rocket needs to do to be able to get to orbit. Like, I was, you know, as Kevin was switching scenes, I was looking at our feed. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, look at that. Look at fleet cam. You can see the rocket getting into orbit. And the plume and everything. It's so amazing.
Because you need to get up to, like, I don't know, whatever altitude they need to get to. But it's a lot easier to get up than to stay up. As looks like we've got a bit of a traffic jam in Port Canaveral currently. But yeah, they need to be going sideways. They need to be going sideways very, very quickly in order to stay in orbit, because physics. I wonder how they're going to
drone ships
end up parking these. Yeah. Is that other booster still on the drone ship? I guess it is.
Yep.
I wrongly assumed it had already been lifted off.
Well, they better get going because, you know, 2 days and 17 hours until the next drone ship landing out of the Cape. But yeah, this one that is coming in, the one that is moving, that's a shortfall of gravitas with B1077, and the other one is just with the instructions with B1069.
And are those vehicles behind involved in space operation? I don't know. Anyway, there's a little bit of a traffic jam. But anyways, it's fine. We're just past 17 minutes into flight. Unfortunately, because we're not allowed to know what's inside the payload fairing, that's it from ULA, what they're going to provide with us. So that's why we're looking at a Falcon 9 on a very, very pretty Floridian morning. First of all, from the field, I'm going to thank the Wise who was out there with some cameras. Julia as well, who's joining us on comms. Thank you very much, Julia, for joining us from out in the field.
It was a pleasure to be with y'all, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
It's a very, very, very pretty morning. Look at that. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. Alex, thank you very much for joining me for this Space Force 51 mission, if I dare call it that.
It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll get to see even more launches. Soon, really soon. 2 days.
Wade as well was also out in the field with getting some views as well for us, so thank you very much for that, Wade. In the background, Kevin was pushing buttons, pulling levers, maybe, I don't know, sliders, something or other. Thanks very much, Kevin. I've been Brian Caton for NSF. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger there, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting down to SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?